So this is the Speak Easy podcast where we go behind the scenes and talking about what it means to be the successfully paid speaker or author. I am your host, Altivia Spelzer, the voice coach, that hard award-winning speaker, author, podcaster, and founder of the World Voice League. Guys, you know, when it comes to telling your story, we never want to sound like the dry eyes guy. Can we all just have that understanding before we even delve into this conversation?
Yeah.
We don't want to sound like that at all. So with that being said, I'm super excited about our guest for today. Hey, Robert.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Amazing. I can't complain. People don't like listening to complaints much anyhow.
Pretty much. Well,
that's not totally true. Yeah,
that's not true.
I know some people. I know some people. It's drama, and they're all in it. They collect them, put them in their wallet, and see if they can pick them out for later. Yeah.
They like that whole reality TV thing going on.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Well, maybe I might complain if I was getting paid for it. So
there you go.
There we go.
Complain with a cash purpose. I like it. With that being said, let everybody know who you are, a little bit about you before we delve into today's topic.
Oh my goodness. My name's Robert Kennedy III. My people call me RK3. I am a speaker, an author, corporate trainer. I work with leaders, helping them to deliver their critical messages with confidence. And yeah, I've got a community on Facebook as well, the Speak Right Now community. And who am I outside of that? I'm married. This year is 19 years. Whoop. August. Yeah. I've got 3 kids and they are like growing amazingly. They're growing and they're taking me all over the place. And one of them, my daughter, she just got her learner's permit. So I'm like, yay. All right. So I am dad. I'm coach. I'm driving teacher, driver's ed dude, chauffeur, all of that. So that's me in a nutshell.
We definitely wear many, many hats. So let's talk about it. When it comes to telling our unique story, our signature story, you talk about, discovering it, that part, developing it, and delivering it. And I found that a lot of times, for some odd reason, there's a lot of people that are missing at least one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why people miss it is because, well, there are a lot of reasons. Number one, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they don't have one because they live in a world where they didn't have the reality TV. They didn't have the traumatic birth story. They didn't have the accident that happened that almost took their lives and that they had to come back from. They don't think that their story is worth listening to. That's number one. Number two, even if you have discovered it, a lot of people don't know how to structure it and deliver it for people to listen to, people to be attracted to, and people to resonate with, and then finally move to action after you've told the story. So those are some of the things that people miss. But that's why people like you and I exist, so that because we're passionate about that, right? And we're passionate about helping people to unearth or mine some of the gold that is within them and then present it to the world in a way that shines and lets them know and lets the world know that, listen, I'm worth something. My story's worth something. I've been through the fire and I've come out as pure gold. And here I am. Boom. Right? So yeah.
Most definitely. And I found that a lot of times we get into a nasty habit of wanting to compare our story to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, it's not just a nasty habit. It's kind of the way our world is built now. I mean, you get up in the morning and the first thing that you do is boom, you grab the phone, right? And for some people, you're checking email, but I guarantee you that a lot of people, they're not checking email first. The first place that they're going is IG. They're going to Facebook first. They're immediately just kind of getting into somebody else's world. They're immediately just pouring into themselves comparison. What is happening with everybody else? Where are they? What are they wearing? Where are they traveling to? You know, what news show are they on? What book are they releasing? Are they doing a book signing? What's Alta Vista up to? Where's she going on tour? You know, so all of that stuff. And we do that and we compare and we make ourselves sadder. We put a lot of stress and tension on our shoulders because immediately we look at stuff and we have no idea what it took that person to get to that place. We don't know what their backstory is. It's kind of like that iceberg thing, right? You see the water line and you see the stuff on the top, and then all the way below it, 2/3 of the iceberg is below the water. And then that represents all of the crazy, all of the hard work, all of the challenges, all of the obstacles that you had to go through before you could even break the surface of the water to be seen, right? And so we're just looking at the cap. We're just looking at the top. Stephen Furtick, he's a preacher, and I love what he says. Quit comparing everyone else's highlight reel to your behind the scenes. So that's a big thing these days.
And you know what's interesting is a lot of times there is no comparison. Mm-hmm. Simply because of how unique everybody's story is. We may have some silver linings that are like thread through that, you know, are kind of similar, but just because you said yes to something doesn't mean the next person's going to say yes to it. Or right. Even if they say yes, they still may not get the same result.
And so one of the things that I like to share as well, before I was in business, actually not before I was in business, I was kind of doing things side by side, but I was a teacher. I was a classroom teacher for 8 years in high school. And I was a science teacher. I taught physics and biology, right? And so I would be explaining a physics problem or physical science problem to the students. And there would be one student in the classroom that said, "I don't get it, Mr. K." Right? And so I would go and I would try to explain it another way. And they would say, "I don't get it, Mr. K." And so I go through 2, and now I'm on the 3rd try. I try to figure out a 3rd way to explain it. "I don't get it, Mr. K." And then another student would come over, and they would say literally the same words that I would say to that student. And they said, "Oh, I got it. Why didn't you say it that way, Mr. K?" I'm like, dude, I just said the verbatim words that they said to you. But here's what happens with that. It's that you can have the information, you can have the content, but your voice is assigned to somebody specific. There's somebody that will only hear your story and your voice because it resonates with their experience using that particular voice energy. So that's one of the things that we get scared of. We're like, ain't nobody gonna listen to me. My stuff's not important enough. Oh yeah, it's important enough to the person that it's meant to be important for. So the only way that they're gonna hear it is if you share it, right? And as a matter of fact, if you don't share it, you're literally robbing somebody else of their opportunity to step forward and move to success based on the experience and the encouragement and the inspiration that you're able to share with them through your story of overcoming. And even if you haven't overcome yet, it might just be the fact that you're in the journey and you're still alive, right? They're saying, "Oh my gosh, they pushed, they dealt with that. Oh my goodness, that means I can deal with that too," right? And so, so we got to stop comparing. We got to stop doubting what our assignment is and the fact that our story is important and has a purpose in the world.
It definitely takes that perfectionism out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I understand that the story that I have is it's not going to be all pretty. There's going to be, like I used to tell people, they want to see the dirt under your fingernails. You went from the pit to the palace. We want to see what you looked like in that pit.
Right.
We want to see what that was. And then with the unique voice, I'm always laughing because I tell people, I said, when you were younger and your mama called you from that front door and you was all the way down the street, you knew that was your mama. Everybody in the block.
Right.
That it was your mama's voice. And we knew that if we were in trouble or if it was time for dinner, by their voice. You knew that. It's no different when you're speaking and telling your story.
Yeah.
That unique voice is going to speak out.
Yep. Absolutely.
I absolutely love that. And so let's go into it a little bit. We won't go into all three of them because they need to connect with you in order to get help with all three.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like a dessert before dinner type girl. So we're going to go with develop. We're going to go with the middle one, develop. So when developing that signature story, what would you say is the first thing that people need to be paying attention to?
So there are a lot of different things that you can do. When I say develop, I'm really talking about utilizing frameworks in order to help you structure your story, right? And so what happens to a lot of people is they have a story and they start talking and they just start rambling about it, right? Have you ever heard, and you've heard people where you've been to presentations and at the end, when you finally get, and they're finally done, you're like, woo, listen, that was an important point that they made, but they could have got there so much quicker. They didn't have to take me up and down. And it's not that people don't like journeys. It's just if you haven't structured the journey in a great way, if you haven't used frameworks to structure the journey, you have not brought people to a certain place with you. So for example, if I'm talking about some of the frameworks or the tenets of storytelling, every great story should have a setting, it should have characters, it should have conflict, and it should have resolution, right? If you look at movies, if you look at every movie, a lot of the movies, the good movies, the movies that you remember, the movies that you're like, oh my goodness, I got to watch that again. They have strong setting, character, conflict, and resolution. So your setting and your character really is the piece that allows people to relate to the story. It allows them to see themselves inside of that. It allows them to create a connection, right? And that's kind of giving them the why. Why should I pay attention to this in the first place? Then you've got your conflict section, and that's where people saying, okay, I should really care about this because this is where the drama is. This is where the struggle is. This is where the challenge is. And that once you set the stage and you bring that conflict out, people are say, okay, yeah, I can see how that would be something that I might get into. And then how is it solved, right? So you got to understand the basic tenets of storytelling. And you don't have to do them all in that same order: structure or setting, character, conflict, and then resolution, right? If you watch like a Quentin Tarantino flick or something, they do the flashback piece, right? So they start out, there's like a big crash on the highway, and it's like, oh my God, all this crazy happened, and then it's like 2 months earlier, right? So now you go back into the setting the stage for that conflict, and then you can kind of come back around to it and then reach your resolution. So having an understanding of the structure of story is important. And so that's where we are with develop. But I'm gonna give you all one more gold nugget, right? So there's a framework that I use, and I have an article. I'm giving this away because I have articles written on the internet about it. I've got an article on my website, how to deliver a talk or how to create a talk in 5 minutes or less. I put 4 up, 5. Okay, there we go. Right? So I have this framework. Come on, you got your laugh on mute. Come on, people got to hear the laugh. All right.
Okay, that was epic. And we got it.
So here's the framework. I call it the EASE framework, EASE. Okay? And EASE stands for energy, ask, story, explain. All right? So energy, ask, story, explain. The energy, what energy do you want to bring? Is it something that you want them to really feel the passion about? Or do you want them to be reflective and think about it in a very serene way? What is it? So once you figure out your energy, then you can ask a question to really get their minds thinking or to help them transport themselves into a scenario, almost like you're creating a video in their heads, right? And you're controlling that. Okay, you're not walking up and you're saying, "Hey, my name is Altavis," or "Hey, my name is Robert. I'm so glad to be here with you." No, you listen. How do you gain their interest right away? It's not so much about what you say; it's about how you can connect with them and what you can make their minds do immediately, right? So, energy, ask, then story. So you ask a question, and then you put a story behind that. And then the last thing that you would do is explain why you told them that story in the first place. So here's how you work that. It's EASE, but you work it backwards, right? So you figure out, what is the point that I need to make? Where do I want to take them? What's the destination? What is the thing that I really want them to sit on? Okay, cool. I got the point. Is there a story that I can use to really bring that point to life? Right? Is there a story that I can use that's going to make them sit? And it's like Aesop's fables or those proverbs or little stories that you heard back in the day that had a lesson or a moral. What's the story that I can use? Especially if I've got a story in my life that's going to be able to bring them to that point, I want to use that. Right? So now I'm going backwards to my ask. I've got my story. I got my explanation. I got my story. What's a question that I can ask that's really going to set them up to really feel and hear and understand this story, right? So got my explanation, got my story, got my ask. Now, how do I ask the question? Is there an energy that I bring to it? Do I need to pause? Do I need to ask it in a really sultry, breathy voice? Or do I need to say it real hardcore hip hop? What is it that I need to do to really make this thing sit, right? And so there's a lot of frameworks that you can use, but this is an easy one that I share in a lot of my workshops that you can, especially if you are asked to tell a story or asked to speak impromptu pretty quickly. Listen, you got a framework. You don't have to figure out where you're going. All you need to do is
wait, pause, rewind, say it one more time.
Yeah. So listen, one of the things that happens especially in work environments, people are asked to present or share their ideas in an impromptu way, just off the cuff. And you ramble and you go around because you don't have a framework or a structure that you can use to develop and share an impactful message, right? And so you're just all over the place. But if you use a structure like this and you keep it and you practice it and you put it in your pocket, when those moments come, you can say, "Oh, okay, cool. Listen, boom, give me a second. Boom, got it, perfect. Here's my story. Here's my ask. Here's my explanation. Boom." And everybody's like, "What? I love that," right? Because you've connected. That's your whole deal. That's your whole deal. You want to connect. Hold on, can y'all see it? Is it back? Okay, you want to connect with your audience. That's your job. That's your job. Because if you don't, then you just spewed a bunch of words, chucked a bunch of information at them, and they're going to walk out of the room and not get it. You know, you know those statistics. It tells you that any presentation, your audience is probably going to remember only about 10% of what you presented. So what's the 10% that you want them to remember? What are you going to be intentional about? So, yeah, so that's where we are in the develop stuff. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I put it in the chat because the people are coming in. The live studio audience is listening in, and I put it in the chat. Listen, you have a framework so that way you can stay ready.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's what it is. I told somebody, I just recently did the Speak Up book. I'm one of the co-authors for the Speak Up book. Super excited about that. And when we did the event in Maryland, I had one process of what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about video. And as Brian introduced me, he said, yeah, she knows everything about podcasting and she's always podcasting. And I was like, well, let's do a switch. All right, let's do the podcasting one. Not a problem. And I got up there and I let them know. Yeah, I was going to tell to y'all about video, but he said podcasting. So we're going to do podcasting. Make sure that you always ready. And I went right in as if I never missed a beat.
Yep. Yep, because that's part of influence, right? Because I mean, ultimately, as a speaker, if you want to call yourself an expert or a thought leader, whatever it is that you want to call yourself, ultimately, you're not just sharing with information with people just so that they can turn around and walk the other direction and forget what you said. You're sharing it because ultimately you want to influence them. You want to influence them to purchase something. You want to influence them to remember you. You want to influence them to be able to think about some concept that they can apply to their lives or make a life shift in some way. You want to influence them. And so if you're going to be able to do that, you got to show up with confidence. You got to show up like you know what you're talking about. You got to show up like you've been there before. You got to show up like this thing is you're not no noob, NOOB. You're not a rookie. You're standing and owning your stuff, right? And so
chips. You best.
Yeah. So I mean, when you do that, people look and they say, "Oh my gosh, that person, they've been through some stuff, but look at how they show up. Look at how they show up. And my gosh, am I showing up that way? How do I show up in my world? What do I need to do to show up that way? Maybe I should go ask that person because, can you coach me, Robert? Can you? Yeah, right? Because you got to own it. You got to show up like, listen, ain't nothing but a thing. I got to show up like, they tried to come get me. They tried to come for me, but I made it through.
So it's interesting because you said a magical word that kind of makes everybody's ears tingle. You said the word influence.
Yeah.
And I think in today's society, we've kind of gotten a mixed perception of what influence really is. So explain to them from RK's perspective, what is influence?
So people mix up the words influence and persuasion, right? People mix up the words influence and persuasion. Persuasion is what a salesperson does. A salesperson in the moment tries to get you to purchase a product or perform an action based on what you're saying to them in that moment. Influence is transformative. Influence is behavioral change. Influence is experiential change. Influence is opening up people to an entirely new perspective that you stand smack dab in the middle of. Right? And you're able to say, so when people think about something, when people see a concept, influence means that they see your face right beside that thing or in the middle of that, because they're like, oh, this is what Robert stands for. This is every time I see Robert oozes this thing. That's influence, and people associate you with certain things when you are influential. Does that make sense?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Because again, we have so many people that ask that question. Well, do I become an influencer first and then become a speaker? Do I become an influencer first and then write my book? Wait, no, okay.
So here's the thing with people. Do I become an influencer? Listen, it's like proclaiming yourself a thought leader, right? I mean, it's like the people that say, I'm a very humble person. No, you're not. You can't say it if you're humble, right? Right? If you're really humble, I mean, how do you know you're a thought leader? You got a story, just tell it. Let the people decide if you're influential. Let the people decide if you're a thought leader. Let them decide all of that stuff. You just say, listen, I've got a purpose. There's something that's burning inside of me. There's something that's eating me up and I got to share it. I can't hold it inside anymore. I've got to do something with this thing. I got to write about it. I got to get a mic and tell people about it. I got to call somebody up and say, hey, listen, I got to share this with you, right? So that's what you do. If it's in you to be a speaker, then speak. Find every doggone place that you can speak, right? Call up every Rotary Club in the area. They're probably not going to call you back immediately because that's just how they roll, right? But call them up. Listen, go to Toastmasters, right? Go to your pastor and say, hey, listen, can I share something at Wednesday night prayer meeting? Or can I share something here at this service? Can I speak to the youth? Can I do something that is going to allow me to utilize my voice that I'm burdened to use? Forget the title or the stuff that you're saying, oh, this is gonna make me famous. I'm influencer, like floating above my head, right? This cloud, I'm walking around, influencer, right? Don't worry about the stuff. Just do it. Do stuff. Action, execution. That's where it's at.
So key when it comes to those who are coming into the industry, as well as those who may have been in the industry for quite some time and haven't really seen that success that they've been chasing after, is that you just got to be willing to go in. I mean, how many podcast interviews are you doing? How many speaking opportunities are you doing? Just like Robert said, RK said it. Listen, how many times are you getting out there and telling that story?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the hard part for some people is when I talk about a signature story, if you have solidified a signature story, that makes it easier for you to not focus on always the words that you've got to say. It makes it easier for you to then just connect with people because you have sat that stuff right in your core, in your heart, right? And when I say signature story, it doesn't always have to be the same exact story in the same exact way every time. So here's one of the things that I do. There is like a sequence of events in my life that has formed that common thread, that central theme in my life, right? And sometimes if I'm at a conference, I'll tell the entire thing. But there are other times, if I've got to speak for 15 minutes, I'll take a piece of it that is relatable or that is important or connected to the content or the idea that I want to share. And because it's mine, because I've told it plenty of times, because I know it inside and out, I come across as authentic. I come across as real, not contrived. I come across like, dude, this dude knows his stuff. And sometimes it's really, I'm just bringing one really good piece of content. I'm just bringing one really good piece of content, but because I connected with them and my story connected with them, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so brilliant. I'm like, I didn't do nothing, dude. I told you this one thing, right? But I've got energy, I've got passion, and I connected with you because there's something about me that you see yourself inside of, or something that you want to aspire to, right? And I'm smiling like, listen, I've been through this craziness and here I am. I'm jumping up and down on your stage, right?
That's right. Look, that energy speaks volumes. Now, I ask everybody that comes onto the platform, in this journey so far, have you had any blunders, any moments where you look back now and you're like, yeah, that wasn't it. That wasn't the right choice.
Yeah, like yesterday. No, honestly. So the thing is, as a speaker, you're going to mess up a lot. You're going to mess up all the time. So there are a lot of different types of mess ups. There's the mess ups that you are messing up on stage. There's the mess ups where you miss opportunities in the preparation for an event. I mean, there are all sorts of stuff that I do. I mean, my assistant, she and I went through, we created a checklist, right, for things that I need to do when I go to any events or workshops. And one of those is I need to take a selfie with the audience, right? Ask me how many times I took selfies with the audience. I just, boom, it's like, forgot, right? Forgot. And I got the checklist. Yup, got it. But I keep forgetting because, I mess it up. I mean, literally last week I spoke at an event and I had on my cue cards, on my note cards before the event, I said, yep, go through these 4 ideas, approach it in this way. And then I literally wrote out my transition statement. I wasn't going to be reading it, but I wanted to write it out so that I could kind of mentally visualize it and then make it go. So I get up there and I'm doing this thing and it's going well. And there was a lady that she said something. I don't remember. She said something during the talk, and I totally lost my place for a second, right? And so I kept going. Nobody would know, but when I was done, I went back. I'm like, crap, I forgot to say this one thing that I thought was a key element or key phrase that would have tied some stuff together. But what I've also learned is that, you prepare as best you can, and then what will be, will be. Stuff happens, you can't switch it, you can't change it, you cannot be fully emotionally tied to it. It happened, you're like, okay, boom, what's the lesson? What's the opportunity? I'm gonna do this differently next time.
That part, yes. I've had some of those moments where I guess some people felt like it should have been a Q&A segment instead, instead of a speech. And so they kind of catch you, because I think one of the things, let me make this statement for you guys that are listening in. One of the things that people don't realize is that not everybody reads a speech.
Right.
When you have framework, when you have that strategy, then your speech is here. Your speech is here. It's your heart and your head. That's your speech.
Yeah.
And so it allows you to be able to critique it, in the moment. But it also means that something can catch you off guard and have that squirrel moment.
Yep.
And thankfully, the framework allows you to bring it back. But there's sometimes where we just miss things, and you just gotta take it for what it is.
All the time. I mean, if you're doing something with slides and your slides glitch, or something happens, a projector, etc. You didn't point the clicker in the right direction, and you got all sorts of stuff. So here's this crazy story, right? And this is not speaking, but I was one of the things that I do is I sing. I'm a worship leader at my church, and we were doing a concert, and there was a song that we had. It was like this song, Israel and New Breed, Jesus the Same, right? So we were singing that song at the beginning of the concert, and prior to the concert, in the sound check, I sang the song flawlessly. Didn't need the lyrics, didn't need anything. Listen, when the concert started, they had the lyrics on the back screen so that I could see it from the stage. And I'm starting the song, and this is like literally 5 seconds into the song. The screen glitches, and I totally drew a blank, and I forgot every last word. So what did I do? I just said la, 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 and la, la through that first verse. and then, but listen, I did that piece with confidence, though. I was not.
It's the confidence that shuts it down, because the confidence is like, oh, he in worship. We just gonna let it flow because he in worship.
Yep. So listen, stuff happens. You can't beat yourself up or get tied to it. I mean, if you're doing this for a living, you're going to have another chance. You're going to have another opportunity.
Ooh, I love that. Repeat that one more time for the Chiefs.
If you're doing this for a living, you're going to have another chance. You're going to have another shot. Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot, because you will have another chance. I love it. So guys, y'all know I love bringing you some phenomenal speakers, authors, entrepreneurs that I see doing amazing things that I know will impact you. Why? Because guess what? That's what this is all about. This is about making sure that you have the information you need so you can take it to the next level. With that being said, RK, let them know where they can find you and how they can get in contact with you for more information.
Awesome. I am everywhere as Robert Kennedy 3. So if you look me up on Instagram, IG, Robert Kennedy, the number 3, not the Roman numerals, the number, the curly thing. My website is robertkennedy3.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Robert Kennedy 3. If you go to Facebook, I'm Robert Kennedy 3. That's my personal profile, but my business page is Robert Kennedy I 1 2 3. Right? So there we go. I couldn't do it 2 times. And so that's what's up. That's where, Twitter, Robert Kennedy 3. Whoo. All right. So I also wanted to share with you, if you are interested in learning more about developing a signature story, I am doing a webinar tomorrow and next week, Wednesday, the 17th, on how to deliver or how to discover, develop, and deliver your signature story. So we can put that link in the comments a little bit later on if people want to hop on that. And it's free webinar. You don't have to pay nothing. It's free 99. All right. So we come on in there and get some loining. Get about signature stories.
Education. Get you some.
Yeah.
So it's so super important though, guys. Listen, I know that in the beginning stages, and most of the studio audience are within that first to 5 year range. I know that within that range, you get frustrated, you get overwhelmed, you quit, you start again, you decide if you want to go and continue to do this full time. You decide if you're going to go and sell bottles of water on the corner. Like you so many things go through your mind.
Yeah.
But we always want to come back with that inspiration and that motivation to keep going, even if things don't look perfect at the moment or don't look the way you think it should look at the moment. Just keep going.
Yep, that's it.
Just keep going.
Keep rolling.
That's it. I appreciate you guys. Why? Because again, if there were no studio audience, if there were no Speakeasy listeners, there would be no Speakeasy podcast. I appreciate y'all. So with that being said, I'm your host, Altavice Pelzer, the voice coach. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.